My beautiful cat died on Sunday. He was here one moment and then he wasn't. I gave myself concussion 3 weeks ago. All of my normal functions were there one moment and then they weren't. I'm still recovering, but the worst has passed. The breath ebbs and flows. The sun rises and then it sets. The leaves grow and then they fall. The flower blooms and then it wilts. The waves crest and then they break. I feel that this essential principle of impermanence is woven into so innately, so intrinsically into every aspect of this experience in form, in a material matter world, in human bodies, in this level of density on this earth plane. And I think we can spend so much of our lives in resistance to it. Because while there is a great gift in that impermanence, especially if you are in that gnarly place in life where the challenge feels almost too much to take, it feels like it's beyond your capacity to hold. The gift of impermanence is that this too shall pass. The promise of change, the promise that whatever challenge faces us is not permanent, will evolve, will continue to move, adapt, evolve, change form, transform in some way. But then, of course, there is that other side to impermanence, which I feel life has been schooling me on recently, which is just feeling the pain of it, the grief of it, the grief that comes in an ever-changing life and in an ever-changing world. The grief that comes in knowing that at some point we have to face death. We have to face that aspect of the cycle, because this is such a cyclical spiral experience. There are rhythms to this life, to this world, to this form experience, and death is an innate part of that experience. And while with death comes the promise of rebirth, comes the promise of renewal, comes the promise of novelty, the challenge as humans is to not bypass the depths of death and what it has to teach us. To not only attach to the light, the expansive, the fertile energy of spring and summer, of the light, can we also be with the autumnal winter darkness, the contraction? And can we not judge it as bad or wrong or separate to or other than? can we just be with it? Can we just feel it? Can we witness it? Can we let it move us? Can we keep our hearts open to it? It's not easy, because there's often a lot of pain that comes with it. I wanted to film this outside because I think that the greatest teacher we have for impermanence is nature. And because it's beautiful and sunny, and because Tiger's body is buried just over there, and this was his favourite spot. He loved the garden. I loved being in the garden with him. The garden was the last place that he spent awake and aware with his feet on the earth. I really don't want this to be a sad video. There is a sadness, of course. A sad thing has happened. I lost the presence of my little shaman, my soul ally, my soulmate. So much more than a cat, an animal, a pet. None of those labels do his presence justice. He was a teacher and a guide, and such a beautiful companion for me during what was, without a doubt, the hardest decade of my life. I got him when I was 20 years old. On my 20th birthday, he came. It was about a year and a half. I wanted a kitten. I was adamant that I wanted a little fluffy thing. And my mum found him, I think on Gumtree. A family were not able to keep him. He wasn't having the best experience there. The kids weren't nice to him. The dog wasn't nice to him. And so on my 20th birthday, I come downstairs and there's a cage and there's Tiger. And I remember initially feeling disappointment that he wasn't this small little fluffy thing. I had got so attached to the idea of having a kitten. But within minutes, the resonance between us was really clear. He softened to me. He was very anxious. Very anxious. And actually, I think whatever he experienced in those early months of his life stayed with him. I think he experienced a little bit of bullying from the kids and the dog. So he always had a little aspect of him that was nervous in certain conditions. But we bonded instantly. And he slept in my bed. The first and only time he slept in my bed was when we first got him that night. And throughout his time with me, it wasn't always easy. He was so nervous that he used to bite and scratch when I first got him for the first few years. He kept getting into fights with all the local toms, but he was such a sensitive soul that he didn't want to fight. He never wanted to fight them. He just wanted a peaceful existence. He never looked for the fight. It always came to our garden, and he always just did what he had to do. And over the years, with a lot of patience and a lot of love and a knowingness that this kind of fierceness that he had, this agitation that he sometimes presented with was just fear, and that fear could be dissolved with love. And there became a point when he just stopped scratching and he stopped biting. And our relationship began to deepen and transform into something that I can't really capture with words. We used to nuzzle third eye to third eye. He came to me as a sensitive cat who hated loud noises. I think that's why we bonded so much. We were two very sensitive souls. I understood him. He understood me. He came to me last year when I was going through a very scary experience with the Kundalini. My heart was pounding. I had my friend holding me, but my heart was pounding so hard we both thought I was having a heart attack. And I was trembling, and he was sleeping on the bed in the living room. And normally he would run away from any loud noises, and I was crying, and I was channeling, and I was screaming. And my friend asked him mentally, come and sit with her. And my friend is incredible. She's an incredible being. And he came and sat on my chest. And I could feel he was sending me so much healing. And within minutes, my nervous system was regulated. And then he jumped off and meandered off to go and get some food. Job well done. My experience of his passing is so multifaceted. I feel that he's teaching me as much in death as he did in life. He taught me to love, to really love beyond form, to see his essence beyond the form of a cat. And he taught me to be present. I always had this sense when I was in his presence. Every day I was around him. Every time I would open the door to get him in the morning, to feed him, to brush him, to just spend time with him, there was always this sense that it was sacred. And I saw him every time I was with him with beginner's eyes, like I was looking at a miracle. He taught me that. To find the magic in the mundane, in these everyday routines that we could so easily pass by on autopilot. And I had this sense, I feel that Spirit has been subtly nudging me to let me know that the time was coming soon. He came to me in a dream, maybe a week and a half ago, and he was unwell in that dream. He didn't say anything. I just knew he was unwell. That he was weak, even though in the dream he was nuzzling me and he was content, but there was a deeper sense that his time on earth was drawing close, or drawing to a close, I should say. And then about 3 days before he died, I was finishing a house sit, and I'd just come on my period, just started my bleed. So I was already very much in that death energy. And this concussion has taught me many lessons, which I'll share in other videos. But that night, that last night of the house sit, I sat and grieved and felt the heaviness and the pain of impermanence. I sat with the ache of knowing that none of this will last, that change is the only constant, that death in some form is inevitable. And rather than just skimming over that pain, I let myself just sink into it. I felt it. I felt it in its entirety. I stopped resisting it. I just let it be another part of this experience. And on some level, I feel like I already started to grieve him then. And then I had an experience on Saturday, the day before he died, with a worm. At the time, I didn't understand. I was out on a walk and I saw an injured worm on the path. And so I did what I always do when I encounter a being in suffering. I knelt down and I gave it some healing. I spent a couple of minutes with it, and it was initially writhing and wriggling, clearly in a lot of pain. And then when I opened my eyes, it had stopped writhing. And it looked like it was about to pass on. And as I stood up and walked away, I felt really deflated. I had felt so joyous before. I'd had such an expansive meditation, and then I walked away from that and I thought, what was the lesson in that? And I just heard that it's not your job to fix or save everyone or everything. Sometimes you just have to let life unfold. And I thought, okay, I suppose that's an important lesson for me, to continue to unpick that kind of saviour, fixer, rescuer programming. At that point, I didn't really understand more than that. I just let that experience be what it was. And then Sunday came, the day he passed, and I was about to go out and do yoga in the garden, and I got the download to play a song, See You Again, by Charlie Puth, the piano version of it, which was actually written for someone who died. And I've learned to just trust these little droplets of intuition when they come. That's how they come to me. It's just a dash of a lyric or a song or a word or an image, and I know that that's just a nudge to follow. So I downloaded the song and I rolled out my mat, and I was just settling into my practice, and I heard him meow behind me. And this is how he always greeted me when I was outside. He would meow to say hello, and then he would come over and he would give me a nuzzle, and we would spend some time. cuddling and being present together. And as I turned around, expecting to see him meander over to me, instead I saw him dragging his back legs, and I realised that he was in pain. So I shot up and I scooped him up and I screamed for my mum and I ran inside and I called out to her that we needed to go to the vet immediately. And I called the vet and we were in the van before I knew it. It was the first time I drove since the concussion, and I think I was just running on adrenaline. And when we got to the vet, I took the lid off his crate and started giving him healing. And I could feel how weak he was. I could feel how dim his aura was. And I was scanning my hands over his body, and his head, his mind was racing with panic and terror. And I even asked in my desperation for spirit to take some of my life force and to give it to him. And then in that moment, I heard the worm. The worm. That experience with the worm. You can't save or fix everything or everyone. And I kind of brushed it aside, and the vet called us in. And she examined him, and she knew almost instantly what it was. It's a condition called saddle thrombosis, which is when a clot, a large clot, travels to what I think would be the pelvis of a human and cuts off the blood supply of the back to the back legs and the back organs. It's very painful for cats, and is usually caused by a much more serious underlying condition with the heart. And he had a heart condition. Nothing serious that we knew of, but we knew that there was a murmur and something there. It all happened so quickly, from being on my mat to seeing him in that state, to being in the vets, to being told that the prognosis was really poor, that he would be unlikely to survive any treatment, especially because his body had already started to go into hypothermia. And usually some cats, they survive, and they can survive with treatment and blood thinners and painkillers. And initially I said, I want all of that, and I want to take him home and I want to treat him. And she said, but your cat is in a lot of pain, even with painkillers. That wouldn't be kind. You can take him home, but I would have to get you to sign a form to say that it's against veterinary advice because he's in so much pain. And it's a horrible thing to see a being you love in pain. And so the vet came and went several times because my mum and I just could not decide what to do. The vet said that his breathing was laboured and that there could already be a clot in his lungs. It was likely that he would have another episode and that it was very traumatic for him. And I kept asking what I was supposed to do. I wanted to fight for him. But there was just this other part of me that I can't explain. That when I looked down at him in pain, and I scanned his aura and I felt him weakening, part of me just already knew that it was time.
And I looked at him and I just felt so much love. And my heart in that moment felt so oddly full of all the memories and all of the moments that we shared together. There was not a single regret because he lived for 11 years with us, loved by all of us. So much love. And so we chose to send him to sleep so that he wouldn't be in pain anymore. He was already paralyzed. And I'm so grateful that I got to be with him. And the vet gave us a moment alone with him after she'd given him that injection to send him to sleep. And a soul song that I've never heard or sung before started to come through me. And it was to help him pass. And I saw a light. And I saw his soul leaving, going towards the light. And I sung his soul to the light. And then the breath left his body. And that was it, it was done. And he was with the two women that loved him the most. And that was it. We opted to bring his body back so we could bury him. But it was strange that I knew that the essence of this being I loved so dearly was in spirit again, and that the body was just a body. It was just the vehicle that his soul had used to animate. And it was quite profound to be with his body. And we brought it home, and I sprayed it with an aura spray, and I combed him with a feather and placed flowers around him and left a rose quartz near his heart, just to honour that body for allowing us to experience him. But his essence had gone. It wasn't bound to that form, and I saw that so clearly. And so there was a real juxtaposition in the experience, because I just lost him so suddenly. And at the same time, I realized that he was not the body. And so there is no real loss. He had been in a couple of fights and he was weak. His body had been weakened by infection in the weeks approaching this. And I see now how there was almost a design to all of this. Had I not sustained the concussion, I would have gone straight from my last house sit to Cornwall. That was my plan. And I wouldn't have been here. And it was always my deep intention to be here whenever he was ready to pass, so that I could be with him and shepherd his soul to the next stage. And so I'm sat here today, and my experience is so multifaceted.
I miss his physical presence. I'm also grateful that he's not in pain. And I'm also aware that the essence of him, the essence of who he is, hasn't gone anywhere. I can't lose him. This is something I realized during my twin flame journey. It came to me in December. That kind of grief is this perception of losing love. We grieve because the ego, perceives a loss of love, an outlet for that love. But actually, the love never goes anywhere. Even when we are separated by space and time from those we love, the love never goes anywhere. And I have had some very expansive experiences recently, which I'll speak about in another video with regards to my mission on Earth. My starseed template is coming more online. And I now know that I'm here to be a channel for the Lyran frequency, for the Lyran Council. They've come back. I don't think they ever left. But the experiences have been pretty mind-blowing. And I was given the message today, I've got goosebumps. I was given the message today that he's going to be assisting me in spirit to be a channel, because when I first started channeling, straight after my Kundalini experience, it was terrifying because I didn't know what a starseed was or who the Lyrans were. I didn't understand what light language was. All of it was so new to me and it terrified me, and I thought I was going crazy. And so I shut all of that down and I said I didn't want any of it. But I know I can't deny my mission, my path, my service. And so the message that I was given today was that he is going to assist me to be a channel for the Lyran Council, for this kind of cosmic frequency to be anchored and to come through, and that I will feel safe when he is present, and that I will know that the channel is safe, because that's one of my fears. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I going to leave my body? Blah, blah, blah. And I was told that he's going to assist me in spirit for the next phase of my journey, for the next phase of my mission. And so that's really the essence of impermanence, right? That energy doesn't die, it just transforms and evolves. And can we keep our hearts open to that process, the entirety of all of it? The ecstasy, the agony, the love, the grief, the joy, the sadness. Can we have the courage to feel it all and be fully open to being human? For me, this is why we came to form. To experience the dynamism of what it means to be in form and all that comes with form and duality. And can we use the gnosis of impermanence to allow ourselves to sink more deeply into presence and gratitude for just being here, for just getting to breathe another breath. Every breath that I take now is a breath that Tiger didn't get to take. His passing has been such a profound mirror for me to really begin to move through this life experience with a knowingness of how sacred it is and how fleeting it is and how lucky, fortunate I am to be here, that it's a miracle and that there are no guarantees in it and that it will go as quickly as it came. And so can we truly soak up every single moment of it. And I think that that will be my next video. The power of presence. Another great reminder I've had from this recent experience with Tiger and with my concussion. And the profound place that presence has in our spiritual journey. The essential place it has in our inner union of masculine and feminine energies. Thank you for witnessing me in this experience, in this sharing. Initially, I thought I would teach or transmit some wisdom, but actually I think what I needed was just to share what was on my heart and be vulnerable with that. It's quite amazing how sacred life feels, even in spite of this very painful experience. I feel more in awe of life than ever. What a gift. The words that came to me shortly after he died was, the gift in losing something or someone we truly love is the renewed reminder to truly live. And so I will live. I will live with a full heart, an open heart. And I'll be grateful every day to Tiger for helping me to do that. Blessings to you guys. Thank you for being here with me. Namaste.